The morning sun rose over Busan's spaceport like it did every other day. Commander Tae-ho Kim stood at his kitchen window, watching the massive passenger ships lift off into the clear blue sky. Each one carried hundreds of families heading to the colonies on Mars and Venus. Earth had come so far in the past 20 years, and Tae-ho felt proud to be part of humanity's journey to the stars. "Dad, look, that's the new Genesis-class ship." His daughter Jae-yun pointed excitedly at a gleaming white vessel that towered over the others. At 12 years old, she already knew more about spacecraft than most adults. Tae-ho smiled, remembering how he had been just like her at that age. His wife Sun-mai placed a steaming bowl of soup on the table. "Breakfast is ready," she said. "You can wash ships after you eat." Tae-ho sat down with his family, enjoying this rare moment of peace. As a fleet commander, he spent most of his time in space. This 3-week leave was precious, and he planned to make the most of it. "Will you take me to the Spaceport Museum today?" Jae-yun asked between spoonfuls of soup. "They have a new exhibit about first contact protocols." "Of course," Tae-ho said. "We can." The morning light suddenly dimmed. Tae-ho looked up, expecting to see clouds. Instead, his blood ran cold. A massive ship hung in the sky, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its dark hull seemed to absorb light, and it stretched for at least 3 kilometers. "That's not one of ours," he whispered. 20 years in space had taught him to recognize every type of human vessel. This was something else entirely. Before he could reach for his emergency communicator, the alien ship fired. A beam of intense purple energy struck the center of the city. The blast wave shattered every window in their apartment. Tae-ho dove across the table, shielding his family as glass rained down around them. "Get to the basement shelter," he shouted, helping them up. More beams struck the city, each impact releasing waves of destructive energy. The air filled with screams and the sound of crumbling buildings. They ran for the door, but another blast knocked them off their feet. The ceiling cracked. Tae-ho pushed Jae-yun toward the hallway. "Run, don't wait for us." The next few moments passed in a blur of dust and chaos. When Tae-ho regained consciousness, he was lying in the rubble of what had been his home. His ears rang from the explosions. He tried to call out for his family, but his throat was too dry to make a sound. Emergency vehicles wailed in the distance. Through the settling dust, Tae-ho could see more alien ships appearing in the sky. They moved with terrible purpose, targeting the most densely populated areas of the city. But strangely, they avoided all military installations. These aliens weren't here for conquest. They were here for slaughter. Tae-ho pulled himself from the rubble, ignoring the pain that shot through his left leg. He had to find Sun-mai and Jae-yun. But as he limped through the destroyed apartment, his training told him what his heart couldn't accept. The part of the building where they had been standing had taken a direct hit. Hours passed in a daze of searching and despair. The aliens continued their attack for exactly 2 hours, then vanished as quickly as they had appeared. They left behind a city in ruins and thousands dead. 3 days later, Tae-ho stood in the emergency command center, staring at screens filled with damage reports. The attack hadn't just targeted Busan. Cities across Earth had been hit simultaneously. The pattern was the same everywhere: civilian targets only, with military bases left untouched. Final casualty reports, sir. A young officer handed him a tablet. Tae-ho's hands shook as he read the numbers. 100,000 dead, mostly families, children. "Any response from the aliens?" he asked, his voice rough from lack of sleep. "None, sir. They haven't answered any attempts at communication." And the officer hesitated. "They're gone. Our deep space sensors lost track of them near the Kuiper Belt. They're faster than anything we have." Tae-ho nodded slowly. He looked around the room at the other officers and officials. All of them had lost someone. All of them wore the same expression of grief and rage. "What are your orders, Commander?" another officer asked. Tai-ho placed the tablet carefully on the table. In his mind, he saw Jai-yun's smile that morning, heard Sun Mi's voice calling them to breakfast. Those memories would have to be enough. He couldn't bring them back, but he could make sure their deaths meant something. "Send word to every fleet commander and government leader," he said. "I don't care about old rivalries or politics. This is about survival now. About justice." He straightened his uniform, forcing steel into his voice. "Humanity just joined a larger universe, and our first contact was with cowards who murder children. We're going to find them. We're going to hunt them down. And we're going to show them exactly what happens when you underestimate humans." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the officers nodded. They had all seen the same things today, had all lost the same precious things. "It won't be easy," Tai-ho continued. "They're more advanced than us, faster, but they made 3 big mistakes. First, they showed us their technology exists, which means we can develop countermeasures. Second, they attacked civilians instead of military targets, which means they're cowards at heart. And third, he looked each person in the room in the eye. They didn't finish the job. They left us alive to fight back." Over the next few days, as Earth began to bury its dead, something unprecedented happened. Old enemies became allies. Rival nations shared technology and resources. The entire human race united in a way that had seemed impossible just a week ago. Tai-ho spent those days planning, gathering information, and making calls to every contact he had in space. But each night, he returned to the ruins of his home. He would sit in what remained of Jai-yun's room, holding the small model spacecraft she had built. On the 7th night, he found something in the rubble. A family photo, somehow intact in its frame. It showed the 3 of them at the spaceport last year. Jai-yun sitting on his shoulders, Sun Mi laughing at something he had said. He carefully cleaned the glass and put the photo in his pocket. "I promise," he whispered to the empty room. "We're going to find them. All of us. Every ship. Every soldier. Every survivor. We won't stop until we find them." The next morning, Tai-ho walked into the newly established United Earth Defense Command. Representatives from every space-capable nation waited for him. On screens around the room, he could see the faces of fleet commanders and ship captains from every corner of Earth. "The aliens think they know us," he began. "They studied us enough to know where our population centers are, to know how to hurt us the most. But they missed something important." He touched the photo in his pocket. "They thought attacking our families would break us, would make us scared to fight back. Instead, they just gave every human being in the solar system a reason to hunt them down." The room erupted in agreement. Within hours, the largest space fleet in human history began to assemble. They called it the Retribution Fleet, and every ship carried the names of the dead painted on its hull. As Tai-ho watched the ships gather in orbit, he thought about that last peaceful morning, about breakfast with his family, about Jai-yun's excitement over spacecraft. The aliens had taken that future from her, from so many others. Now humanity would take something from them, their belief that they could kill innocent people and escape without consequences. The hunt was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the attack. The Retribution Fleet hung in Earth's orbit like a swarm of angry wasps. 500 ships of all sizes waited for the order to begin their mission. Each one carried the best weapons and tracking systems humanity could build. Commander Tai-ho Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vengeance. The ship still had that new metal smell. 6 months ago, it had been just a frame in a shipyard. Now it was the most advanced vessel humans had ever built. "Commander," Captain Hae-jin Park approached with a tablet in his hand. "The last scout ships have reported in." Tai-ho nodded. Hae-jin was the best tracker in Earth's space fleet. Before the attack, he had caught more space pirates than any other captain. If anyone could help find the aliens who had murdered their people, it was him. "What did they find?" Tai-ho asked. "Nothing in the outer solar system," Hae-jin said. "But Young Mei has something interesting. As if summoned by her name, Intelligence Officer Young Mai Lee appeared on the main screen. Her office on Earth was filled with star charts and alien data. "Commander," she said, "I found a pattern. These aliens, we're calling them the Nexer now. They've done this before." Taiho's hands tightened on the rail. "Explain." Young Mei brought up a map of nearby star systems. "I've been studying signals from other worlds. There are stories, warnings passed between species. The Nexer attack developing civilizations, always the same way. They target families, kill thousands, then disappear. Why?" He Jin asked. "What do they gain?" "Resources," Young Mai said. "They're scavengers. After they attack, they wait for the civilization to collapse or abandon their cities. Then they take whatever they want." Her voice grew hard. "They picked Earth because our family bonds are strong. They thought killing our children would break us." Taiho touched the photo in his pocket, his last picture of Sun Mai and Jai Yun. "They were wrong. Very wrong," Young Mei agreed. "I found 3 possible locations for their staging worlds, places where they store what they steal." She sent the coordinates to the main screen. "They're not used to victims fighting back. Their bases won't be well defended." Taiho studied the map. All 3 locations were far from Earth, but not impossible to reach. "How sure are you about these coordinates?" 80%, Young Mei said. "I cross-referenced signals, trade routes, and sensor readings from the day of the attack. They went in this direction." Jin stepped closer to the screen. "The closest location is 3 months away at our best speed. The other 2 are 4 and 5 months out. Then we'll split the fleet," Taiho said. 3 task forces, 3 targets." He turned to his crew. "Send word to all ships. We launch in 6 hours." The bridge crew moved with quick purpose. Everyone had been waiting for this moment. Training and preparation were over. The hunt was starting. 2 hours before launch, Taiho met with his task force commanders in the Vengeance's war room. The ship's artificial gravity was still being tested, making everything feel slightly too light. "Remember," he told them, "we're not here for blind revenge. We're here for justice. When we find the Nexer, we capture their leaders, make them face trial for what they did. Show the galaxy that humans aren't like them." The commanders nodded. Like everyone in the fleet, they had lost family in the attack. But they understood the difference between justice and murder. Jin would lead the 2nd task force to the middle target. Commander Da Jung-oh, a veteran of the Mars colonies, would take the 3rd group to the furthest location. Taiho would lead the 1st task force to the closest target. As the commanders returned to their ships, Jin stayed behind. "Sir," he said, "Young Mei found something else. Something about the Nexer themselves." "What is it?" "They're physically weak," Jin said. "All their technology, their ships, their weapons, it's because they can't fight any other way. They're cowards in the most basic sense. They've never faced real resistance." Taiho thought about that. "Good," he said finally. "Fear is useful, especially when it's deserved." The fleet launched exactly on schedule. From Earth, it must have looked like a new constellation rising into the night sky. 500 ships carrying the hopes and determination of every human left alive. They traveled in silence. No radio signals, no unnecessary communications. The Nexar wouldn't know they were coming until it was too late. Taiho spent the 1st month reviewing everything they knew about the enemy. Their ships were faster but less armored than human vessels. Their weapons were powerful but took time to recharge. Most importantly, they weren't prepared for a fight. They were bullies who had never been punched back. The 2nd month brought the first test of their new ships. A micro-meteoroid storm appeared with no warning. The fleet scattered, each ship dancing through the deadly cloud of space rocks. When they regrouped, only 2 ships had taken minor damage. "Good pilots," Jin said over the secure channel. "The Nexar aren't the only ones who can move fast." The 3rd month tested their patience. Space was vast and empty. Some crew members started to doubt that it would find anything. Tahoe had young me give a presentation to all ships, showing her evidence. The Nexer were out there. All humans had to do was keep looking. Then, exactly 12 weeks after leaving Earth, they found something. Energy reading, the sensor officer reported, matches the Nexer weapon signature. Tahoe stood from his command chair. Show me. The main screen lit up with a tactical display. A small outpost floated in the darkness of space, half hidden behind an asteroid. Its purple-tinted hull absorbed light, just like the ships that had attacked Earth. Battle stations, Tahoe ordered. All ships prepare for combat, but hold position until my command. The crew moved quickly and quietly. They had practiced this thousands of times. Weapons powered up. Shields hummed to life. In the launch bays, fighters waited with their engines hot. "Sir," the communications officer whispered, "we're picking up transmissions from the outpost. They're speaking the language similar to what we heard during the attack. Record everything." Tahoe said, "Young Mai will want to analyze it." He studied the outpost through the ship's cameras. It wasn't very big, maybe 100 Nexer inside. But it proved young Mai was right. They had found the enemy's trail. "All ships," he said into the fleet channel. "This is Commander Kim. In that outpost are some of the creatures who murdered our families. They think they're safe. They think no one can touch them." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Show them how wrong they are. But remember, we are not them. We don't kill helpless enemies. We arrest them. We bring them to justice." The fleet moved like a single organism. Ships appeared from behind every asteroid, weapons ready. The Nexer never had a chance to raise their shields. "This is Commander Tahoe Kim of the Earth Retribution Fleet." He broadcast on all frequencies. "Your outpost is surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the outpost's lights went dark. Their weapons powered down. On the tactical display, dozens of life pods launched from emergency exits. "They're running," Fei Jin said over the command channel. "Just like you said. Cowards. Capture those pods," Tahoe ordered. "Don't let any escape. And send boarding teams to the outpost. I want their computers, their records, everything." The operation was over in less than an hour. Not a single shot fired. The Nexer surrendered as soon as they realized they faced real opposition. The boarding teams found them huddled in corners, their alien faces twisted with fear. Young Mei's team began downloading data from the outpost's computers. The Nexer prisoners were transferred to holding cells on the larger ships. Some of them tried to bargain, offering technology and information in exchange for freedom. "They really don't understand us," Fei Jin said as he watched the prisoners arrive. "They think we want things. They don't get that we want justice." Tahoe stood in the Vengeance's observation room, watching his people work. The fleet moved with perfect precision, securing the outpost, gathering evidence, preparing for the next phase of their mission. 6 months of training had paid off. He took out the family photo he always carried. "We found them," he whispered to the smiling faces of Sun Mai and Jai Yun. "This is just the start. We'll find their homeworld. Make them face what they did. Make sure they never hurt another family." The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they knew that humans had taken their first step into a larger universe, not as victims, but as defenders of justice, as protectors of families everywhere. The hunt wasn't over. But now they had proof. The Nexer could be found, could be caught, could be made to answer for their crimes. Tahoe smiled for the first time in 6 months. Somewhere out there, the Nexer leaders were waiting. And now they had something new to fear. Humans who had nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The captured Nexer outpost became a hub of activity as human ships surrounded it. Teams of intelligence officers worked day and night, digging through alien computers and questioning prisoners. Commander Tahoe Kim hadn't slept in 2 days, But he couldn't rest, not when they were so close to answers. "Commander," Young Mi called from her temporary office in the outpost. "You need to see this." Tai-Ho walked through the curved alien corridors. Everything in the outpost was designed for comfort rather than function. Even their prison cells had soft beds and entertainment systems. Young Mi sat surrounded by holographic displays showing alien text and star maps. "I've broken their basic encryption," she said. "The Nexer have been doing this for centuries. They attack developing worlds, wait for the population to run away in fear, then take whatever they want." "But why?" Tai-Ho asked. "Their technology is clearly advanced. They could trade for anything they need. Because they're afraid of everyone." Young Mi brought up an image of a Nexer. They looked almost like tall, thin humans, but with gray skin and large eyes. Their whole society is built on avoiding conflict. They only attack worlds that can't fight back. Earth was supposed to be an easy target. A prisoner was brought in, escorted by 2 guards. Unlike the others, this one wore decorated clothes. Some kind of officer. "Tell them what you told me," Young Mi said to the alien. The Nexer spoke through a translator device. Its voice shook. "We chose your world because you were perfect victims. Strong family bonds, advanced enough to have resources we wanted, but not advanced enough to stop us." The alien's large eyes blinked rapidly. "We were wrong. No one has ever fought back before." Tai-Ho stepped closer to the prisoner. The alien flinched. "Where is your homeworld?" "I cannot tell you that. They would kill me." "Your leaders would kill you?" Young Mi asked. "I thought your people avoided violence." The Nexer made a strange sound, like bitter laughter. "Our leaders are different. They stay safe in their towers and send others to do the killing. They have never faced warriors like you." Before Tai-Ho could ask more questions, He-Jin's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Commander, we found something in their navigation logs. Coordinates for their central base." Tai-Ho looked at the prisoner. The alien's reaction confirmed it. They had found something important. In the Vengeance's command center, He-Jin showed them what his team had discovered. "It's not their homeworld," he said, "but it's their main staging area, the place where they store everything they steal. And look at this." He pointed to a cluster of energy readings. "Those are the same ships that attacked Earth." The room fell silent. After 6 months of searching, they had found the killers. "How many ships do they have there?" Tai-Ho asked. "At least 30, He-Jin said. "All bigger than ours. But sir," he smiled slightly, "they're not warships. They're cargo carriers with weapons attached, built for running, not fighting." Tai-Ho studied the tactical display. The Nexer base was huge, but poorly defended. They relied on secrecy, not strength. "Send word to the other task forces," he ordered. "Tell them to continue searching their assigned sectors, but be ready to join us if needed." He turned to his crew. "We move in 6 hours. Get some rest." As the others left, Young Mi stayed behind. "Commander, there's something else you should know. The prisoners, they're terrified of us. Not just scared, but completely shocked. They've never met anyone who fought back." "Good," Tai-Ho said. "Fear might make them think twice before killing innocent people again." Young Mi shook her head. "It's more than that. Their whole society might collapse if we push too hard. They've built everything on the idea that they're safe because no one can find them. Now that we have, Tai-Ho finished. They need to learn there are consequences for their actions." The fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves stalking prey. Their engines were cold, their signals hidden. They would reach the Nexer base in 3 days. Tai-Ho spent those days preparing his people for battle. "Remember," he told them, "we're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. Capture their leaders. Secure their ships. Show them that humans protect the weak, not prey on them." The crew understood. Many of them had lost family in the attack, but they knew the difference between justice and vengeance. On the third day, they caught their first glimpse of the Nexer base. It was a massive structure built into an asteroid, with docking arms stretching out like spider legs. Ships moved between the arms, carrying stolen goods from countless worlds. Life signs? Tai-Ho asked. Over 10,000, the sensor officer reported, most of them clustered in the central sections. Any sign they've spotted us? No, sir. Their sensors are focused outward, looking for victims, not inward, looking for threats. Tai-Ho took a deep breath. In his pocket, the family photo seemed to grow heavier. All ships, battle positions, weapons hot, but do not fire unless fired upon. Let's show them how real warriors fight. The human fleet rose from their hiding spots behind nearby asteroids. Ships appeared from every direction, weapons ready but not firing. On the main screen, Tai-Ho could see panic spreading through the Nexer base. Ships tried to flee but found nowhere to go. This is Commander Tai-Ho Kim of the Earth Retribution Fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies. Your base is surrounded. You murdered our people. Now you will face justice for your crimes. The response was immediate. Nexer ships powered down their weapons. The base's defense systems went dark. They surrendered without firing a single shot. They're sending a transmission. The communications officer reported. Text only. They want to know our terms. Tai-Ho thought about the 100,000 dead on Earth, about all the other worlds these cowards had attacked, about his daughter's smile the morning they killed her. Tell them our terms are simple, he said. They will release all their stolen goods. They will provide the coordinates of their homeworld, and they will surrender the leaders who ordered the attack on Earth. The next few hours were busy but peaceful. Human boarding teams secured the base, while Nexer crew members practically ran to the holding cells. They found warehouses full of stolen technology, art, and resources from dozens of worlds. In the base's command center, Tai-Ho watched the operation through security cameras. The Nexer leaders had been found hiding in a secret bunker. They wore elaborate clothes and immediately tried to bargain for their freedom. They're offering us technology, Hajin reported. Faster than light drives, energy weapons, anything we want. We want justice, Tai-Ho said. Nothing more. As the prisoners were led away, Young Mai arrived with more translations from the base's computers. Sir, you need to see this. The attack on Earth, it wasn't just for resources. They wanted to make an example of us. Show other developing worlds what would happen if they tried to expand into space. Tai-Ho looked at the alien text scrolling across her screen. Instead, we made an example of them. Yes, Yum Miss smiled. Every species they've attacked will know about this. Know that humans stood up to the bullies and won. Later, standing in his quarters on the Vengeance, Tai-Ho took out the family photo. We found them. He whispered to the smiling faces of Sun Mai and Jia Yun. We showed them that killing innocent people has consequences, that humans protect not just our own families, but all families. The Nexer homeworld coordinates were locked into their navigation computers. The fleet would head there next, to make sure justice was complete. But something had already changed in the galaxy. A message had been sent. Humans weren't easy victims. We were defenders of the weak, protectors of the innocent, and anyone who thought they could hurt our families would learn a hard lesson about real courage. The Nexer homeworld hung in space like a jewel. 3 moons orbited the blue-green planet, each covered in gleaming cities. Commander Tai-Ho Kim stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. Beautiful world, Hajin said quietly. Hard to believe such cowards came from a place like this. The entire human fleet had gathered for this final mission. 500 ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons ready but not armed. They weren't here for destruction. They were here for justice. Any response to our messages? Tai-Ho asked. Yes, sir, the communications officer said. The Nexer government wants to talk. She paused, surprised. They're begging us not to destroy their world. Tai-Ho shook his head. Even now, the Nexer didn't understand. Tell them again. We want the criminals who ordered the attack on Earth. Nothing more. The fleet took up positions around the planet. On the surface, they could see millions of Nexer fleeing their cities in panic. They expected the humans to do what they would have done. Kill innocent people to make a point. They're sending a delegation, Heijin reported. 3 ships, unarmed. The Nexer ships approached slowly. They were beautiful vessels, all curves and shining metal. But like everything about the Nexer, they were built for show, not substance. The delegation landed in the Vengeance's main hangar. 20 Nexer leaders emerged, wearing elaborate robes covered in jewels. They walked with their heads bowed, already trying to appear harmless. Tai-ho met them in the ship's conference room. Young Mei stood beside him to translate, though most of the Nexer spoke basic English. We offer you technology, the lead delegate said immediately. Weapons, ships, anything you want. Just leave our world in peace. We don't want your technology, Tai-ho said. His voice was calm but firm. We want the ones who ordered the murder of our people, the ones who told their ships to target families, children. The delegates looked at each other nervously. Those decisions were made by the High Command, one said. They are protected, important to our society. Not anymore. Tai-ho placed a data pad on the table. It showed images from the attack on Earth, burning cities, destroyed homes, dead children. Look at what your leaders ordered. Look at what they did to innocent people. The delegates tried to look away, but Tai-ho's voice stopped them. No, you will look. You will see what kind of people you've been protecting. For 10 long minutes, the delegates watched the images. Some began to cry. Others looked sick. Finally, the lead delegate spoke again. We didn't know, he said. The High Command tells us these attacks are necessary, that we take only what we need from primitive worlds. They never showed us. Now you know, Tai-ho said. So I'll ask one more time. Will you surrender the criminals who ordered this? The lead delegate straightened his shoulders. For the first time, he looked directly at Tai-ho. Yes, they do not deserve protection. But, may I ask something? Tai-ho nodded. Why haven't you attacked us? You could destroy our cities, kill our families like we killed yours. Why show mercy? Because we're not like you, Tai-ho said. Humans protect the innocent. We punish the guilty. Nothing more. The arrest of the Nexer High Command happened quickly. The regular citizens, seeing that humans weren't going to bomb their cities, forced their leaders to surrender. Decades of fear and propaganda fell apart in a single day. Tai-ho watched through the ship's cameras as the real criminals were brought aboard. 12 Nexer, older than the others, wearing black robes marked with military symbols. These were the ones who had ordered the death of his family. Of so many families. What do we do with them? Heijin asked. We take them back to Earth, Tai-ho said. They'll face trial, not just for our people, but for every world they've attacked. Young Mei found records going back 300 years. The Nexer prisoners were led to holding cells. Unlike their victims, they would be treated with respect and given fair trials. That was the human way. As the fleet prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving from other worlds. Aliens who had been attacked by the Nexer, who had lost their own families. They came to thank the humans, to offer alliance and friendship. Your people did what we could not. One alien leader told Tai-ho. You showed that bullies can be stopped. That justice is stronger than fear. The journey back to Earth took 3 months. News of their success had traveled ahead of them. When they arrived, the entire planet celebrated. Not just for victory, but for justice done right. The trials began immediately. Each Nexer leader faced charges for every world they had attacked. The evidence was clear. The verdicts were fair. The sentences were long. But the most important changes happened on the Nexer homeworld. Without their corrupt leaders, the regular people began to change. They opened trade relations with other worlds. They offered to return stolen goods. They started to learn what real strength looked like. 1 year after the attack on Earth, Taiho stood at the new memorial in Busan. The names of all 100,000 victims were carved in shining stone. Among them were the names of his wife, Sun Mei, and daughter Jai-yun. He-jin and Young Mei stood with him. They had all changed in the past year, grown stronger, learned what really mattered. The Nexer sent another message. Young Mei said softly, "They're building their own memorial, not just to Earth's dead, but to every person they killed over the centuries. They want to make sure their children never forget what their old leaders did." Taiho nodded. That was real justice. Not just punishment, but change. Learning. Growing. A group of alien visitors stood nearby, placing flowers at the memorial. Word had spread across the galaxy. Earth was now known as a protector of the weak, a defender of justice. Other species sent their children to learn from humans, to understand real courage. Taiho took the family photo from his pocket. He hadn't looked at it in several weeks now. The pain was still there, but it was different. Not the sharp agony of loss, but the quiet sadness of memory. "I think they'd be proud," He-jin said, looking at the photo. "Not of the fighting, but of how we brought justice without losing our humanity." "They would," Taiho agreed. He touched the names of his family on the memorial wall. "We showed the galaxy what humans really are. Not victims, not killers, protectors." As the sun set over Busan's spaceport, ships lifted off into the sky. Some were human vessels, heading out to guard trade routes and protect weaker worlds. Others carried alien visitors, returning home with stories about Earth. The Nexer still existed, but they were changing. Learning to be brave. Learning that real strength came from protecting others, not hurting them. Taiho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other bullies might be planning attacks on innocent worlds. But now, they would have to think twice. Because humans were watching. And humans had shown the galaxy that justice would always win over fear. He placed a small model spacecraft at the base of the memorial, the last one Jai-yun had built. Then he turned and walked toward the spaceport. There was more work to do. More worlds to protect. More justice to uphold. That was the human way. And now, the whole galaxy knew it.